What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Boom Boom Performance Podcast. Today's guest is a very special guest because it is somebody who I've known for a long time now and who has been a client but who has become a very good friend. Her name is Fabiana, and she is better known as a Instagram influencer or fitness motivator because she is motivating women all over the country to be better, be a better parent, be a hustler, be an entrepreneur, be more fit, be more healthy, do all the good things to live a better lifestyle. And she is a great spitting image of that person. She is a loving, caring mother. She is an entrepreneur herself. She travels the world while staying extremely fit, doing different fitness gigs, doing different fashion gigs and things like that. But it's been really, really cool to work with her because we got into things. She actually heard this podcast. We got in touch, and she had won the cover of Oxigen magazine. So she was on the cover of Oxigen magazine as the first Latina on that cover, which was a really big deal to her and in her community for Latin women. But she approached me and was basically like, she's been lean. I mean, she's shredded. She's really well known for her abs, and she's been like that for a while. She's a mother of two. She's trying to sustain things. And it can be tough to sustain that lean of physique, a cover model physique year-round without doing things properly or having a coach hold you accountable. So she got in touch with me. We started working together. We started getting her to lift a little bit heavier, change up her training, do different types of cardio, maybe not as much cardio, make things more sustainable. And we started really diving into the mindset of things together and just teaching each other a lot about life, about hustling, about entrepreneurship, about being a father or a mother. And we became really close because we've got to share each other's journey with each other and helped each other grow in our own journeys on how to just be a better person in general, but how to live a healthy and fit lifestyle while managing these hectic, crazy, and busy schedules with all these different people to rely on us for. So I brought her on the show today, and we get into her past, her history, how she got on the cover of Oxigen magazine, how she manages to stay fit and her mindset strong while having two kids, a husband, traveling the world. And when I say the world, I literally mean she's traveling everywhere all the time, and we're getting her hotel workouts and changing nutrition. For the amount of time that I've worked with her, I think she's traveled to like 8 countries and 20 states, and I don't even think that's an exaggeration, to be honest with you. It's pretty crazy, but she's doing a ton of stuff, and I got her on the show today to talk about all of that. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy hearing the perspective behind her, because the thing I took away most is, number one, if you don't have a why or a purpose behind what you're doing, the fuel and the drive and the motive to actually accomplish things is never going to compare to those of the people who do have a why, who do have a purpose, and who are very successful. And that's exactly what you need in order to be successful in the long term. Is you need that driving why, that driving, burning purpose behind everything you do. And then the second thing is, if she can do this, you can do this. Because she got on the cover of the magazine thinking that there was no way in hell she could do that. She was just an average person, just another mom in Philadelphia trying to get by and just trying to start a business, do her thing. And it blew up, and she made the cover because she was determined and she didn't let self-limiting beliefs enter her mind. And now she's had exponential growth after that magazine cover because she never lets doubt settle in. She keeps moving forward and she believes in herself. So if you're somebody out there who is wondering whether or not you can accomplish that big, massive goal that you have on your mind or that you've dreamed about, the answer is you absolutely can. And the only thing separating you from that goal is your self-limiting belief. So you have to believe in yourself first and foremost to get to that goal. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode. Before I get into this episode, a couple quick announcements, guys. Me and Fabi both are big on Instagram. We're constantly sharing each other's content, and we stay communicating. So what that means is, you know what I'm going to say. Take a screenshot of this episode right now on your phone, post it on your Instagram story, tag myself and Fabi on Instagram. Both of our handles are in the show notes below, so you can tag us. We want to see who's listening. We want to share your post. We want to talk to you. We want to know exactly who is listening and enjoying this podcast with us together. So share it on Instagram, guys. One last thing, we are a Patreon. So if you feel like you want to donate to the cause and help us grow this podcast, grow this movement to reach even more people and get you guys even better results for completely free, you can donate to us now at patreon.com/BoomBoomPerformance or click the link in the description. Now, without any further ado, let's get on to this awesome episode with my good friend, Fabiana. All right, Fabi, this is long overdue. This is kind of cool because we've been working together for quite some time now. We've grown pretty close. We've become pretty good friends at this point. And we've had a lot of communication, a lot of talking, and a lot of just friendship over the I mean, shit, it's probably been over a year now almost. And like, we're finally doing a podcast. So I'm excited to get you on here, excited to talk about your story and all the cool stuff you're doing. I feel like every time I talk to you, there's like something new that you're getting into, something new you're building or doing, or Matt's doing something huge, which we can touch on that as well. That you guys are kind of like the power couple, I would say. But let's start by getting into your story. For anybody who doesn't know who you are, who is Fabian? Like, kind of give us the breakdown of who you are and what you do right now, and then I'll kind of pick it apart and go into your history.
All right. Well, I'm super excited to be finally on your podcast. I mean, that's how I found you, actually. I found you, through your podcast, just trying to find something that can like occupy my time as I'm on a treadmill, but also something that's educational and that I'm learning something. You know what I mean? So that's how I found Mr. Cody BoomBoom. So it's super cool to, go from listening to you on there and then now being part of the podcast as well. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
All right. So as you said, I'm Fabiana Ferrarini and I am a mom of two. I have two boys, Josiah and Enrique. Josiah is 7 and Enrique is 12 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a certified health coach, a personal trainer, and now I'm more like a motivator. I feel like that's like super, super important. It's like a big pillar to the overall lifestyle. I'm a wife to Matthew, who's he's a designer, but at the same time, he runs this powerful business, does kitchen and bathroom remodeling. So it's pretty exciting. And yeah, that's what I do.
I love it. And she kind of made that sound like humbling and small, but like, I mean, even just like what you said about Matthew, he redesigns kitchen, but he's doing like famous people's kitchens and stuff, right? Like he's doing big shit.
And that's one thing I got to practice, being a little better. I'm super humble and just like very low key. And just like, yeah, I'm into fitness. And my husband just does kitchens, but you are right. Matt just did a kitchen remodeling for Chef Ramsay, which is like, such a big deal. And just like meeting her was like super cool. Yeah, for me, it's been an amazing journey. The first Latina to be on the cover of Oxigen magazine. I mean, it's 2015, and to be the first Latina to be on a cover of such a big, prominent magazine, it's a freaking big deal. And it's one of those big deals that, like, because it happened, you don't really think about it, and you're like, oh, it's normal, and everybody gets on a cover magazine. But sometimes, I gotta sit back and just like really realize that it's a big deal. I became the thing for a lot of those Latina women and young girls that are trying to, become big in the fitness industry. And I became someone they look up to. So it's a pretty big deal for me.
It's a huge deal. You got to stop and smell the roses, because
I know
you say not, some people get on a cover. Not everybody gets on a goddamn cover. That's huge. So let's go back. Let's backtrack a little bit. Was fitness always a part of your life, or is this something that sprung up? Preteen, teenager, adulthood. Like, when did this all start to happen?
Well, it's funny because as a young girl, I was born here in the States, but my parents, I'm the middle child of three, and it seems like my parents were just coming to the States to have us. So I was born here in New Jersey, and then we moved back to Honduras. So I lived there for a few years, came back, my brother was born, and then I lived in Honduras till I was 6. But I was never we never lived in a household where being healthy and, being fit was a big deal. I mean, if you know about the Latino community, it's like we live on carbs. I mean, it's like breakfast is carbs, lunch is carbs, and we mix potatoes and rice together. Like, who does stuff like that? It's like a big no-no for, the fitness community. So living in Honduras, I was pretty active because it's like hot every day, it's super sunny, and environments like that. It's just like, it just forces you to be outdoors and just kind of like enjoy it. So I was very active, but then I also came from a family that had heart issues, obesity, high blood pressure. And so that was always, a big part of our family. I mean, but it never changed our diet. We never changed how we ate. We never changed anything. It was just like, hey, it's hereditary. What are we going to do about it? So When I moved back to this, when we moved into the States, it's you know, the lifestyle continues. So to answer your question, like, I was never into health and fitness as a child. I didn't play sports. And when I did play sports in high school, I played soccer for 2 years. And I think my coach just put me on a field just to kind of like distract the boys, you know what I mean? Because it was the first co-ed team. So it's not like I was really good. Like in my mind, I thought I was really good and I really enjoyed it because I always wanted to be part of a team. But I don't think I was good in his eyes. So he had his different agenda for me there. But I never really cared much to be healthy, you know, or to be fit. It was just not a thing for me growing up.
At what point did that all change? Because obviously you're extremely into it now. I mean, that's what you do for most of your living. So at what point did you decide to kind of steer path and start really focusing on health and fitness?
So, you know, as I had Enrique, he's 12 years old. I had him at a very young age. I was a teen mom, a teen single mom, and that's something like I don't ever share in overall. And I don't share it because I don't think it's important for the world to know. But you know, I'm gonna mention it here now because we're just being very open. But I was a teen mom, and I had Enrique when I was in high school. Um, And after I had my kid, like I realized like I put on a lot of weight. I mean, I went from 115 pounds to 165 pounds. And you know right off the bat, that's like way over the 35-pound mark that you're supposed to gain during your pregnancy. And that made me reflect back on my family and my family history. And you know, I was just like, wow, you know, like I put on so much weight within just like a 9-month period. Like this is not okay. And it started to like sink in. You know how you go like when you like are entering your fitness lifestyle, it's like there's stages to it, you know? So it was like the first stage where it made me realize like, okay, this is not normal, but I'm not ready to make the switch yet. You know what I mean? So it was just in the back of my head that I didn't want to be like my family. Like I didn't want to have any heart conditions because I wanted to be there for my son growing up, as he was growing up, and I wanted to be active and I wanted to be able to run around with him. And so then when I started college, my senior year of college, after I got married with Matt, we got married our senior year in college. I had Josiah, and that's when it really hit me. I was like, okay, you know, this is my second child. I gained again the same amount of weight. Like, this is not okay. Like, I don't want to be that mom that has kids and just lets themselves go, you know? I still wanted to be healthy and I still wanted to be able to, you know, do things for me. Like, I still wanted to like self-care, you know, because I saw my aunts and my mom, how they completely, and I'm grateful for my mom. My mom was a stay-at-home mom and she literally gave her whole life for me and my siblings, but I wanted to still have a life of my own and still feel good. And I wanted to be a sexy wife. You know, it's important in a relationship that your husband still like loves, you know, looks at you the same way he looked at you before you had kids, you know? So after all that, like having 2 kids and graduating college and buying a house, like all that happened within like 6 months. And that is a whole freaking lot. And yeah, it is. I mean, you know, I I wanted to continue school after graduating with my bachelor's degree, but I couldn't, you know, because Matt was starting our primary business, which is the kitchen remodeling business, and he was busy. He was busy starting that, and it wasn't no time for me to be able to step away from taking care of the kids and go to college. And so I got like super depressed. It was, you know, I felt like everything was just too fast. You know, it was just happening too fast and I couldn't get a grasp of it. You know, I couldn't like pause. And, you know, I'm a very spiritual person. And so, you know, I was praying and literally like I would cry every night because it was just like, my goodness, like I don't have any free time. Like everything is for the kids. I don't interact with any adults anymore. It's like my life from morning to night belongs to my children. And again, I love it, but damn, like I need a break, you know? And it was hard, but you know, I'm pretty grateful that I have my husband to be able to like listen to me, and which is super important, having a really strong support system. I had him to be able to help me and let me know, like, hey, listen, you do what you need to do, and we'll figure it out. And so this is the time, like, I went on a hunt. I went on a soul searching hunt for something that fulfilled me and made me feel good. And I was like joining like kitty classes, just like doing crafts to see, like, maybe, I like doing crafts and maybe make me feel good. And I was just like, that's not working for me. I try to do like sales and like sell like facial products. And I was just like, this is not me. I am not a salesperson. I bought the products and ended up giving them away. Like, it just wasn't working. And so one day, a good friend of mine's suggested, like, hey, like, let's buy this Groupon for a boot camp class. And I was like, okay, hey, why not? Like, let me try it. And literally that one boot camp class, like, changed my life. And I say changed my life because I felt so good. And it was just 1 hour, but that 1 hour gave me back so much life. Like, I came back renewed. Like, I was so happy to be home. Not that I wasn't happy, but I felt really good. And I felt like that 1 hour was for me. And so that's when it all started. Like, that's when I knew, like, wow, fitness, it's like, it makes me feel good. And this is what I really want to continue doing.
It's like, I think it's so important for people to listen to what you're saying, because you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else. It's like the old cheesy, and I've said this a million times on the show, like on an airplane, you got to put your mask on first before you can put anybody else's on. I see this with moms that I work with more than anybody, because their life is centered around giving all of their energy to everybody else. And I've experienced it too as a trainer. Like, my job is to support my family and to support my clients, and it's just them, right? And then I forget to take care of me. But I had a similar situation with that. Kind of was like a light check for me to step back and reflect on, like, okay, like, am I meditating? Am I training the way I want to train? Am I eating properly to support myself? And those things helped me do so much better for all the other people in my life. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away from what you just said, is like, if you don't take care of you, there's no way in hell you're going to take care of everybody else. Going off of that though, how long was it from this point to the Oxigen cover magazine, and what did that transition look like? Because obviously it wasn't a matter of like, I did a couple boot camps and then boom, I'm on the cover, right? Like, how did that happen? How long was it? What did you start doing?
So it's funny because when I started my own journey, I figured, I was like, my goodness, like, it took me so long to figure this out, to find like that community. And there wasn't that community, like, I felt like I was like literally alone in the wilderness trying to like figure something that I'm sure I wasn't the only one trying to figure out. A mom, married, with kids, like, what can she do to feel good? So I felt alone. And so I opened the Instagram page, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to share my story, because I know, like, I'm not alone, and I know there's other moms going through the same thing. So I started sharing. I didn't have any background in like fitness. I actually have a bachelor's in biology, because I was planning to go to pharmacy school. So I kind of knew a little bit, about anatomy, physiology, but I just went on a search, and I wanted to get to know my body, and I started to do my own programs and just basically play around, with my nutrition. And I wouldn't even call it nutrition. I just kind of like started just like eliminating junk, eliminating the juices and eliminating shit that wasn't real. So I started sharing my story, and I started posting, and I started getting like a lot of feedback from moms, like, thank you, whatever. So fast forward from that, I did that for a while, basically from 2011 till 2014. And then I fell off the wagon, and it was like right before my birthday. I didn't even know how old I was turning. It was 2014. I'm 30 now, but I suck at math. So yeah, you guys do the math. And then, I was like, you know what? Like, I fell off the wagon. I was like really pissed because, like, damn, I was doing so well. Like, what happened? And I kind of like beat myself over it. But I was like, first, I'm going to enjoy my birthday trip. We're going to go to Miami. I'm going to have fun. And then when I come back, I'm going to do something different. And it's funny because I swear, I feel like our computers and our phones kind of like listen to us. And like the one day I like logged on to Facebook after I came back from my trip. And on the side of it, it was like, join the Oxigen challenge. And like, this is kind of like freaky because I'm like a believer that things don't happen by accident. There's a purpose for it. So I was like, this is so weird. Like, I swear I was just talking about like doing something new and like trying to find a challenge and something to like change my own personal routines. But I was like, okay, forget it. Like, let me just sign up. So I signed up. It was a 90-day challenge. It was with Amanda Latona and Erin, which are like two big fitness powerhouses. And I did it because I just wanted something new. I like challenges, and I can like really like focus and hone in really good when it comes to things like that, or when it comes to things that I like, you know what I mean? And I joined it, and then as a plus, they had like enter to be on the cover of the magazine if you win. So I was like, okay, like what are the chances of me being on a cover of a magazine? There's like over 10,000 women joining this. I won't win the cover, but nonetheless, I'm gonna just put it just to kind of like help me work towards something, because that's another key. Like we need to work towards something. Like we need to see a beginning and we need to see an end, because that's what helps us, to stay motivated. Like if we don't have an ending or we don't have something that we're working towards, then it just doesn't become fun. It's like, we fall off, we fall on, we get back on, you know what I mean? So it doesn't become a lifestyle. So it's like, I'm going to work towards that, and maybe, I'll be on a cover, but at the end, like I'm going to feel good. I'm going to be super ripped. And so I did it, and it was freaking 90 days. And in the midst of those 90 days, Matt decides to surprise me for our anniversary and takes me to like, I think we went to Paris for the first time. And I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Like, you're surprising me while I'm in the middle. And when I tell you, like, I take this fitness stuff like super serious, I was like, you're surprising me when I'm in the middle of like a 90-day challenge. Like, have you lost your mind? Can we like reschedule this? And like Matt's on the other end, like he is not like, a big fitness person. Like he's really busy. He tries to. And he was like, babe, come on, you'll be fine. Like you'll just try to do as much as you can over there. And I was just like, I was really upset. And we went to Paris. I think we did Barcelona too while we were at it. And I avoided like all the treats in Paris. I mean, this is like the capital of like food and like croissants and like chocolate. And I was just like, this is like freaking insane. And I really told myself, like, you have to bring me back, like once this challenge is over. So I did pretty good, surprisingly, because I was like super determined. And the challenge ended in October, and I submitted my pictures. It was like insane. I love the community. I love sharing, and it was super incredible, like the overall experience. And so I submitted, it's funny because like this whole campaign, it's like you submit your before and afters, but then they select 20 people, and from those 20 people, like the minute they select them, it goes live. So it's like people have to vote for you. Okay. And so like Matt, it's like super business savvy. And like we created in our living room, we created like a whole freaking campaign. Like we had this big ass whiteboard, and we drew it out. Like how many times were we going to text our friends and family, like everyone on our phone book, how many times we were going to post about it, how many times we were going to share. And it just like, literally we like lived in our dining room table, just like, going through a campaign. And some people were just like, I'm gonna need you to stop texting me too much about this whole voting thing. Like, seriously, like this is the time where you really like realize who were your friends and who just didn't give a shit, because people were like, that's enough. You texted me this morning and now you're texting me again. Like, I already voted. And so like this went on for like 2 weeks. And finally we like grew really exhausted. And I was just like, I cannot freaking like continue staying on this diet anymore. Like I'm super like overwhelmed. I'm hungry. F these abs. Like I didn't win. If they didn't call me, I didn't win. And so it just kept dragging. And then like mentally, like I clocked out. I was like, okay, that's it. Like I didn't win. It's fine. And even though I wasn't going for the cover, like I felt good with my results. I was like, maybe I did win. And I remember I was at the mall with my sister, and I got the call, and it was the call from like Oxigen magazine. They were like, hey, you're like top 3, and we would love for you to send us a picture of what you look like right now. And I was like, are you fucking kidding? Like, I'm at the mall, you know what I mean? Like, you want to see what I look like now? So like I ran into like H&M and I like bought like a bathing suit, like the ugliest bathing suit ever, like all this shimmery on the bra and like shimmer on the panties, something I would never wear. And I like send them the pictures. And then like we waited again like 2-3 days, and then finally like they sent me an email and they're like, hey, congrats, you won. And I was like, what the fuck? Like I remember that moment like it was yesterday. Like Matt and I was like crying, and it was just like, I'm on the cover, like I'm gonna be on the cover. This is like freaking surreal.
That is
Ugh.
insane. I can't. I
Yeah.
mean, 10,000 women competing. That's just insane to think that you ended up being at that position. So, at this point, you've nailed the diet. I have a couple questions on this. Number one, how? Like, let's talk about the abs first. I guess you're known for your abs. Your abs are shredded. Some people will argue abs are somewhat genetic, but I think a lot of people get frustrated because they burn fat or they lose weight and they don't have ripped abs. But you actually have to like build your ab muscles to show
Mhm.
that through any type of body fat, whether you're super low body fat or a little bit higher. You need to actually hypertrophy those muscles just like anything else. How often did you train your abs? Or is that just, do you feel like you got blessed by the ab god on that one?
Oh man, I wish. I mean, if you looked at like, not to talk shit about my family, but if you looked at like, my family, it's like no one is petite. I mean, I do have a small waist, but that doesn't have anything to do with my abs. But I do remember, and I don't know if maybe you'll be able to tell me if this influences, but I do remember growing up, like my mom would always be like, stand up straight, suck your belly in, don't walk around with your belly hanging out. So I guess at some point I was like, as a child, I was like training my core, you know what I mean? Because I never walked around with my stomach hanging out. Like I always had some sort of like control in my stomach. I always wear my pants above my belly button, like that whole like army stuff. But during the program, we didn't like app training wasn't like the big core of it. When you join the challenge, you have to pick which trainer you want. So I went with Amanda Latona, and her big thing is like legs and glutes. So we didn't really do too much ab workouts. But I can tell you that for every exercise that I did, I always have my core engaged. Like I don't really do too much ab exercise. I'll do planks and, hanging leg raises. But for the most part, everything comes from your core, so it's important that our pelvic is tilted forward so our core is fully engaged no matter what we're doing. So that's a big thing for me, period. But I wasn't blessed with the ab gods.
I love that you said that too, because I think it's so important. Number one, just for safety of lifting, you have to keep your core engaged or else your posture is going to be shit. But even like over the time that I've been programming for you, we didn't do a ton of extra ab work. And as you went through that progress, I would say your abs just looked better and better. And I think it was partly because we were focusing on heavy lifting, which was something we actually integrated into things, which is actually what I want to go into next. Like during this Oxigen magazine, like you said, you were tired of dieting. You were at a point where you were just done with it all. I'm sure when you won the cover, it gave you a little motivation to keep going. But when I met you, you seemed like you were kind of tired of that process as well. Like you had been dieting for a long time, and we talk a lot about, let's reverse diet you. Let's bring your calories up. Let's not do so much cardio. Let's lift some heavy weights. Let's make this more maintainable. Can you talk about that process and what you went through with me and what it was like to be dieting for a little bit too long maybe, and how you kind of mentally had to make that shift?
Yeah, I think as we start our journey, we automatically assume that you want to lose weight, you drop your calories. You want to gain weight, you increase your calories. And I realized that that's not really the case. I mean, during the program, I was fairly new to the lifestyle, the health and wellness portion. And I dropped my calories so insanely low that I feel like mentally, that just messed me up, because I was hungry sometimes. My hormones were all over the place. During my cycle, it was even worse. I was angry. I was crying. And that's because my calories were so low. And at the end, it was just not, it was just too much. It's something that it's not sustainable. Now I can tell you that you don't have to have such low calorie intake to lose weight, you know what I mean? Or to be lean. And that's a big piece that people often mistake. They drop it really low, and because they feel like, it's going to help them look good. Physically, you might get the results, but mentally, you're going to be so jacked up, And that's one thing, like, I realized with the cover, if you see my cover, I mean, I love it. I was 116 pounds. Like, I look super ripped. And right now I sit at 130 pounds. And if you compare the two, I love physically how I look, but mentally it was too much where I couldn't sustain it, period. Now working with you and just like overall what I've learned throughout my whole journey, I've realized that I can eat normal, I can have carbs. I don't have to restrict my diet. I don't have to stop eating certain things. If I want to treat myself to, I don't know, a piece of cake or cookies, like I can do it in a very moderate way. Like I don't need to feel like I will never have something that I enjoy.
Yeah. I think the best part about that is the educational process and that. And to be honest with you, you don't like if you put a side by side photo, you do not look 14 pounds heavier. Like you really don't. I think the difference is you're maintaining muscle, you're building muscle now. You're still very lean, but most importantly, you're healthy. Like your attitude, your productivity, everything has shifted so much, which I think is the biggest thing there. Like there's times and places where you can diet hard and you can bring calories down, and you might have needed to do that for that shoot, but it was a 90-day, probably up to like 120 days after waiting and waiting
right
for that period. And that's fine. But like being able to get out of it properly is so important. So I love having somebody like you talk about that on the podcast, because there's so many women listening that have done crash diets or have gone too low in calories who don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. And you're a perfect example of like, no, you can eat more, you can have more freedom, and you can do this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like I mentioned early on the journey, we sacrifice the mental for the physical, and that's not necessary. You can still have the physical and still have that mental sanity, if you're eating properly and you're just, and even if you need help, I would advise for people to find a nutrition coach, somebody that's able to like properly guide them. There's so many resources nowadays that we don't have to do it on our own, but it's super important to maintain that mental sanity, or else it's no good. It's no point of being physically looking good and like mentally not being there.
So let's talk about that. What are some like practices you use or things that you advise for the mental side of things? Because I mean, you're a mom of two, you support your husband. I mean, we haven't really touched on this, but you travel so goddamn much. It's insane. Like every week you're like, oh, well, I'm going to Ireland now. I need a workout for this. I'm like, why are you going so many places? But which is awesome. But you do all this while running a business, while being an entrepreneur, while doing all these things. You're in a hotel right now talking to me because you're at an event bettering yourself. There's so much going on, yet you keep your positivity high, you keep productivity high, your mindset is strong, and you still take care of your family. Like, can you give us an example of like what you feel like allows you to stay motivated and stay just in the game for all this?
Yeah, now I'm 30. I feel like as soon as I turned 30, like my mentality just like completely changed.
Yeah.
I feel like in my early 20s, I was like super obsessed with the physical, just trying to be ripped, just trying to like keep up. And like unintentionally, we try to like keep up for like society at some point, and it can easily happen because we're constantly on our phones on a daily basis. We consume more than what we produce. You know what I mean? Which is like a big no-no. And turning 30 is like, I took a step back and I realized, damn, like life is so short and life is so beautiful and every day is not promised. Like, why do I have to like sit here and obsess over my physical, yet my mental is kind of like taking the back seat, So instead of like looking things from the outside looking inward, to me, I took the direction of looking from the inside outward. So for me now, I shifted priorities. Like mentally, I want to be healthier because it's good for myself, and most importantly, but it's also good for my family. It's good for my husband. And it's like, if I'm not mentally there, like, how can I be able to like maintain everything else around me? So it's like, I had to kind of like rewire myself and rewire the way I look at fitness, and not look at it anymore as a way for me to like, oh, I need to stay fit because I need people to still see me super ripped, but more like, I need to stay fit because it makes me feel good. I need to stay fit because I enjoy it. You know, I need to stay fit because it allows that time, like it gives me that time for me, you know, and that's what like truly has helped me to stay pretty sane. Just rewiring the way I look at fitness, because we can easily become so obsessed with it nowadays, you know, and it's not about becoming obsessed. It's just finding that healthy balance where where you have to like step back and sit in a quiet space and ask yourself, like, why is it important? Like, why are you doing it? Is it for you or is it for someone else? You know, is it for everyone else?
I think that's so important. I actually just posted about that today. Like my favorite quote is the comparison is the thief of joy, because if we constantly compare to others and compare to what we quote unquote should be, we're never going to learn anything. We're never going to have new insights. We're never going to grow. We're never going to get better results. And we just kind of stay in that cycle of just, I mean, for lack of better terms, stress, anxiety, depression, overwhelm. Like
Yeah.
you're never really happy. And I'm sure that's like a huge, a much better influence on your kids as well, right? Like the way you're treating yourself and the way you're acting.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because like when I get Mother's Day cards from my kids, it's always like mom is superwoman, you know, and it's always like mom is super strong. Or it's like my husband was like, oh, when you find a girlfriend, he was telling him, she needs to be like mommy. And he's like, I'm never gonna find a girl with abs. But you know, for my kids to watch me, at one point I felt guilty, and that's another thing. Like as moms, you know, we feel super guilty for like taking that one little chunk of time and spending it for ourselves. And I really felt guilty, and it was something I struggled with. And I was like, damn it, I'm leaving my kids to go work out. Like how silly and selfish of me is it? But I realized that it's not, and I realized that my kids admire that, and I realized that the more they see me doing it, the more they're curious about it, the more they ask questions. And as they're asking questions and I'm answering, I'm educating them on the importance of being healthy and fit and the good things it produces. So at this point, I mean, it's, you know, my kids are pretty like health conscious. They'll see you drinking soda and they'll tell you like, hey, do you know how many calories of sugar that I have? And, you know, I'll have them watching like the Netflix, I think it's called Biggie Size Me. And, you know, so it's important that we educate our children on it. And, you know, that they learn, like children learn more from watching than from you explaining things, you know.
Yeah. I think it's important how you frame that too, because if you're talking about like being skinny or being ripped or anything like that, it can be misleading or go the wrong way and cause issues
Mm-hmm.
with their body image. But if you're talking about health and how you feel when you cut out sugar and how much better you feel eating real whole foods, and I know we've talked about that a million times of like the difference of when you actually put real foods in your body, that's when they start to learn and be educated in a positive way and make positive changes. So kudos to you for that. And I know for me, it's going to be huge with my daughter as she gets older, is I'm going to be doing so much of that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's important. And that's another thing, like as a mom that I like to do, it's like, you know, let them know. It's like, I'm not raising babies, you know, I'm raising adults and I want to like better prepare them for the future, you know, because these times, like it's 2018, but like child obesity, it's increasing like crazy, you know, so it's like, it starts with the parents. So if as parents, we can get on board on educating our children, but like making it fun, not making it like they're in school and just like, you have to stop eating chips, but like, tell them like, do you know, like this is fake, you know, like, and doing experiments. Like the other day we like burned a slice of cheese, you know, that cheesy experiment on YouTube, and my kids were able to see like, oh, you know, the Doritos don't burn and this burns, but the Doritos don't burn, you know. So it's important to just like overall just educate them and share why, you know, why I'm doing it and the things that, you know, how good it makes me feel.
I love that so much. And like going over just everything we've talked about, like you keep reinforcing the why behind everything being such a positive thing. And I think that's probably the biggest take home message that anybody can listening to this can take away is your why has to be for you and in a good place, because if it's not, you're going to be leading down the wrong path. Speaking of path, I do want to, before we sign off or anything, I do want to talk about what you were doing right now and any future plans you have, because I know you have so many different projects. You just did like a really cool Tomb Raider thing that we got you ready for in Hollywood. I'm pretty sure it was, right? LA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So kind of tell us about what different projects you've done, what you're doing now, and like anything you have planned in the future that you can share with us.
Yeah, like you say, like I'm like super busy, and I think I'm just so used to my life just being like constantly like moving. Like in 2 weeks we're getting ready to go to Argentina, and And I just like finished filming. I just finished filming the super dope fitness program with a celebrity, which I can't release the name yet, which is like so exciting because it's gonna release in November. And like you said, I did the Tomb Raider event in LA. But most importantly, what I'm like truly passionate about nowadays, and I feel like it's motivating. You know, it's like sharing the importance of a lifestyle versus just a quick exercise program. And that's what I'm moving towards. You know, like I said, I'm a certified health coach, and I want to pick that up again, you know, because I wanted to be what people expect me to be on social media, this big fitness trainer. Like, I realized I love training, but I realized that I love more connecting with people. And I realized that, you know, our society is moving towards more of a physical thing and like disregarding the mental portion of it. And I feel like it's my duty to kind of like re-tap back into it, because if mentally, like I said, we're not there, all our hard work, it's kind of like it won't work. You know what I mean? So I'm relaunching as a health coach, and that's what I'm working towards, and I'm like super super excited to recap on just healthy living and turning, you know, this whole thing into a lifestyle as opposed to just a summer quick fix and a quick trip, you know, fat loss.
I love it. I love it. I think human connection and communication and accountability and all those things are just so important. And even though, I mean, I am obviously, make a living being an online coach. I think the best results and the happiest clients I have are the clients who are in touch with me the most. And I think that's like the biggest key. And even in my membership site that we just launched recently is like the people who are constantly posting in the Facebook group, even though they're not directly in contact with me on a messaging basis constantly, they're in the group, they're in this community, they're talking. Like, those things matter so much. So I love to see that you're kind of coming back, and you're really good about interacting with people on social media. I mean, you're always messaging my fiance and about recipes, and like, I love that you're so good about connecting with people, because I think that's such a huge piece of being a coach. So I'm excited for you to really push down that avenue.
Yeah, you know, I feel like there's such a huge abundance of people that really need our help. So the more the merrier, the more trainers, the more health coaches, the more everything, like the better it is. And it's like we don't just have to tap into finding a program and nailing it, but like we have to tap into the mental part, you know, because there's different pillars to this lifestyle, you know. So it's like if we can cover everything, then why not, you know. And working with you, like I've learned so much about being mindful and like spending some time alone and just like really, you know, truly self-caring for myself. And so it's like I want to share that, you know, because we don't do that too often. You know, we're always moving so fast that, you know, it's so easy to get caught up in a rat wheel, and then we forget to really take a step back and spend some time with ourselves.
I love that so much. Okay, so let's go on to the final question I have for you, and you've heard this because you listen to podcasts. Here's the situation. I've changed it over the years, so let's see if you're familiar with the first one. Some people get on the show and they're like, I've been waiting for this. So you're at a table for dinner and you have 3 empty seats in front of you, and you can pick anybody in the world to be in those chairs eating dinner with you. They can be alive or dead, but they cannot be friends or family.
Oh my goodness.
Who are you choosing at this table?
Let me see. Oh my God. You know, I should have like better prepared myself for this question. Um, I would want somebody that's someone like Gunner. I love Gunner, you know, and I've been following him, and I love when you had him on your podcast because I love his story. And that was the first book I read when I started my journey, and he just has such a great outlook in the fitness rhythm that I would want to have him with me on that dinner table.
He's hilarious too, so he would be funny to
He
see.
is super cool. Like he's just seems so down to earth. And like his story, you know, like when he was little, he said he was like a little overweight, and like how his mom used to take him to Weight Watcher. I mean, it's like super cool. It's super relatable.
Yeah.
So I would totally want to have him. I would want to have Michelle Obama. She is like super, super cool. That's what I'm actually here for in San Diego. Like she was the keynote speaker for this conference. And she is amazing. She is like the true epitome of like boss lady, woman empowerment, mom empowerment. And it's always super cool to have someone on your team that's always like cheering you on, and it's always so positive, and it's always letting you know you can do anything you put your mind to. Um, so definitely Michelle Obama, and one more person, right?
Yep.
This is tough. No family and friends. Hmm. I don't know. I think I would have you. Can I have you on my dinner table?
I'm a friend. I'm a friend.
I
You can't
would
have
have
me.
you. You know why? Because I've learned so much from working with you, and it's funny because I didn't reach out to you for the mental part, and I didn't even know about that. And it's one of those things like you don't know what you don't know, you know what I mean? And it was like it's something that we always talk about, like, oh, self-care, self-love, but like how often do we practice it? We preach it, but we don't practice it as often, and we're so like programmed to do everything else except like spend some time with ourselves, that you really taught me a lot about that, to be in touch with myself. So I'm truly grateful for that, and I wake up every morning and I'm conscious about going out for a walk, and I go for a walk and I really enjoy like listening to the birds, things that you don't really pay attention. Like I notice new shit in my block that I didn't ever like. I was like, oh, those pretty sunflowers. Like, I wonder when they've been, when they got. And
Yeah.
it's like things that the small things, we don't pay attention. We're so caught up in like going from point A to point B and expecting point B to be the big aha moment. Like, this is where the lesson is at. When half of the time, the lesson is within the journey itself.
Yes. I
You know
love
what I
that.
mean? And just to add to that quick story, when I went to Ireland, um, we went we stayed at this beautiful hotel where the movie P.S. I Love You was filmed, and it was just like such a beautiful hotel. And there was like a waterfall at the end of this freaking hill that I think I was like texting you about it. It was like it was like an 8-mile drive, and like I was so determined, like I need to get to this stupid waterfall, like I need to see it. And like driving through these hills, like when I tell you, it was like out of a movie. It was like hills with like sheep and like cows, and the big, it was all this beautiful greenery, and like the sunset was like gorgeous, like unexplainable. But anyway, I'm so determined to get to this stupid waterfall. When I get there, it was nothing special. I mean, it was just a freaking waterfall. I couldn't even get close to it because I got there like 2 minutes before they closed. But I sat there and I was like, shit, you know, I could have like completely missed everything on my way to this journey, to this waterfall, because I'm so in a rush to get and see it, that I could have just like completely missed the sunset and stopping my bike and like jumping into this farm and seeing the cows and seeing the sheep. And it's just like, the moral of the story is like, we need to like enjoy the journey, we'll enjoy the destination when we get there, but we have to take some time to like truly enjoy the journey. So I will bring you to my dinner table.
Well, you know what? That was such a good lesson that I will allow you to scratch the rules and put me at the table, because I appreciate everything you just said. It's been awesome working with you, and it feels good knowing that you've had changes and you've learned so much. And that story alone is so powerful, because I know for me in my personal life, when I really learned how to be present, everything changed. Like I had so much more clarity, and sometimes you go in and out of that. Like I had a big time in my life where I found this clarity and how to be present, and I started looking at the small things and focusing
Mhm.
on the journey, and everything in my life was better. And then things sped up, the business grew, I quit my other job, we bought a house, like kind of like similar to your story, all these different things, we're having a baby, all these different things happened, and things got caught up, and I stopped being present again. And then I had the child. When I had my baby, everything changed again. And then I can really be like, okay, this is what it's like to be present. And I agree with you so much. Like it's so much more about the journey. So great way to end the show. I appreciate you for coming on. Before I let you go, where can everybody find all of your content and all your stuff?
Oh my God, yeah. Instagram, Fabiana_Ferrarini. And I post about life in general, relationships, parenting, fitness, because like I said, this lifestyle is not just about waking up and working out. It's so much more. It's sleeping, reducing stress, having fun, being present, being positive, being productive. So yes, Fabiana_Ferrarini. And I have all my links to my website there, which is liftwithpurpose.com.
I love that. I love that. And I will put all that in the show notes because trust me, there was no way in hell I could spell her name right the first time. So I'll put that in the show notes so everybody can grab that. Fabi, thank you so much for finally getting on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the show today. A couple quick announcements before I let you go. First and foremost, I just want to encourage you to check out the products I have in the description. First one is the nutrition hierarchy. This is a very cheap guide to literally mastering your diet. That's why it's called the all-inclusive guide to mastering your diet. It's going to teach you exactly what and how to manage your calories, your macros, your meal timing, your supplements, your micronutrients, literally everything you need to know about dieting and nutrition and how to change your body composition through nutrition is included in this book. Not just to get your results, but to actually teach you how to get those results along the way. The next thing is going to be functional muscle, which is my first and right now my biggest product out there. This is the program that is based on years and years and years of functional training with tons of clients. So whether your goal is strength, fat loss, or muscle gain, you should be strength training towards these goals while prioritizing functional movement patterns to make sure that you are avoiding any injuries along the way. That's exactly what this program does, and it's great because it guides you through the process, it changes throughout the process, and it gives you demonstrations and explanations about everything you're doing so you never get confused and you always have a solution. You also get access into the BoomBoom Performance Podcast Forum, and that is the only way into the forum, and that's where you can ask me literally anything about anything, and I will help guide you through the process. Last thing I want to mention, guys, is if you could leave me a 5-star rating and review, that would be fantastic because it literally is one of the biggest and best ways for me to grow in the iTunes charts. Oh yeah, and real quick, if you're not subscribed, hit the damn subscribe button because I constantly bust out content for you guys and I spend a lot of time and effort making sure that you guys can get better results for free by simply listening to this podcast. All right, guys, I'll catch you next time.